Hello, 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 everyone. It's Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, and wherever you are here, I'm in California, so it's Pacific for us. It's Angelo Sisco of Alpha Hippie. Want to say greetings to the WINJECT community. Happy New Year to anyone that wasn't on here last week. And I wanted to talk a lot about things that happen in the new year, right? A lot of us are starting off with excitement. Some of us may actually not be, right? We might have already slipped a little bit on our resolutions or not showing up in a great place. And so, what I wanted to really talk about today was the difference between rowing and sailing. And this ultimately came from a concept that I learned called Wu Wei, W-U space W-E-I. And you could look it up on YouTube. One of my favorite philosophers is in our modern times was Alan Watts, and you could look up him explaining this idea. And for so many of us, when we start a new goal, what we do is we move into rowing. We start forcing it, right? And there's a certain part that I really believe needs to happen in order for us to develop a habit. At first, we do have to row a little bit. We got to force ourselves to get into this new habit of whatever it is. Any kind of goal begins with you developing habits. I believe I spoke about that already, and making sure that you're creating the right habits. But then after we've developed the right habits, we have the discipline, our ability to say no. It's then learning and stepping back to seeing where we're forcing things. And forcing things is rowing in life, right? We're trying to get across the ocean by rowing. And that's going to be a really difficult thing because we're not with the wind sometimes, right? And then you have sailing, which is with the wind. And often, once you get going and you have these, you know that you're a disciplined person and you could set things up. It's about developing an awareness of where the wind is so that you could take best advantage of them. If you're looking for a business opportunity, if you're looking to grow into a new opportunity with business, it's important that you're choosing a marketplace that has the most wind, right? Because you may be an unbelievable entrepreneur. You may know how to market. You may know how to sell. You may know how to fulfill. You may know how to do operations. But the problem is you may possibly be in the wrong channel, and there's nothing wrong with you. It's just you're in a channel that requires rowing or not enough wind or upside. Sometimes in our relationships, we're forcing things. And this may ultimately mean that you need to break up with someone, that you got to divorce someone, that you got to spend time away from people, such and such, right? You need to find new friends, right? And these things like that. Then with yourself, when it comes to getting more fit, going to the gym, and all these different things, sometimes we could be forcing things. Like for instance, for me, I did more of a strength training session and a CrossFit session on Monday. Then yesterday I played jujitsu, and I did about 90 minutes of jujitsu, and it was a tough, hard day for me. I woke up this morning and my body was really sore and beat up. And instead of not going to the gym, I went and took a yoga class because that's where I could feel the wind being in a better place. Because if I was just trying to get up again and do something hard, I would be forcing it instead of being with the wind. Okay. And sometimes when people hear this concept of Wu Wei at first, they feel like it's okay that they could just be lazy and not be paying attention to things and things are going to come to them. No, 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 no. When you are looking, let's say I was trying to find the wind on a sailboat, I am actually very, very aware. And sometimes the greatest action we could take is non-doing. Non-doing does not mean not paying attention. It's actually paying a lot of attention to something, but not actually moving. Is a stillness to actually take in information and be observant with it, and not just thinking we need to force and do all the time. And for many of us, especially myself, I became successful by being a strong, hard doer when I was younger. And what I mean by when I was younger is when I was 25 and first starting my CrossFit business that lasted over a decade, and my coaching business of being a coach to athletes and then consulting other gyms. I did it with force. And so what I thought I needed to do all the time was force and push through and all of those things. Yet in reality, now that I'm a little bit older, I just turned 38 last month. When I feel myself forcing, I realize now is that's what led me to burnout. That's what led me to taking 4 steps forward, but 3 steps back. That's the game of the hare and not the tortoise, right? That's the game of physicality. And that is what is the young person's game, young man or woman, right? That's what you have because you don't have wisdom yet. You aren't mature enough to sit still because you think it's silly, because you think it's a waste of time. But if we've ever watched any of those cartoons where the hare and the tortoise race, the tortoise wins, not because he's faster, because he doesn't take as many steps back or any steps back going forward, because they walk the journey, right? Because where does demotivation happen? Where does enthusiasm become impatience? Is when we're taking steps back. Is when we feel like we go forward, but then we get knocked down. So that path to success is a straight line. But if you're trying to just do without thinking, contemplation, awareness, looking around and making sure that there's strategy behind your doing, you're doing for the sake of doing. You're rowing for the sake of rowing. You're forcing for the sake of these things. And so much for us to actually grow and become an overnight success is about stacking those good days, the days where we're with the wind, because eventually that rower is going to have to put the oars down and stretch out their forearms. And then you're going to be able to blow right by them because you have the wind. Okay? Something else to be aware of. If you want the wind to be strong, you have to make sure the things that are on your sailboat are actually things that you value and that inspire you. And so this is a good way to take a look at your relationships, right? Because if I have people that are on my boat, or if I'm in partnerships in business that are on my boat, that are just holding me down, weighing me down, keeping me from taking full advantage of that wind, that are holding me back, I need to let those things go. And they may not have to be let go forever, but at this period in time in your life where you are at in the cycle of your life, it's going to serve you better to not have the weight there, because when that wind comes, you won't be able to take full advantage of it. You won't be able to prosper and move forward as much as you really wanted to and as much as possibility could allow. So continue to look at these observations and take this idea of wu wei, right? Sailing versus rowing in life. And you will see opportunities for what they really are. Double check in with opportunities you have and relationships you have that aren't serving you, because those are just heavy weights that will not allow you to propel yourself forward in doing all the things that you want to do. You don't need to say yes to every opportunity. Opportunities come and go just like the wind, just anything in life. There will be plenty of opportunities. It's about being strategic and taking 1 second before you do. I say 1 second, it may be a little bit longer to be more strategic and develop a plan so that once you go out there to execute, you are executing with the wind so that you can just do without having to bump up against those plateaus. So you don't show up like the hare and demotivate yourself. Because the worst thing that could happen to you in 2022 is for you to have the same goals and the same resolutions and the same whatever for 2023. That's the worst thing that could happen this year, is that they are exactly the same. You do not deep down want to live a problem-free life. You don't want to live a stress-free life. What drives people crazy is Groundhog Day. And Groundhog Day comes when you are not growing and expanding, when you are forcing life and you're just doing things for the sake of doing them and not being honest with yourself, taking honest inventory and observations, when you are in denial of your bad habits or your shortcomings, when you're not able to ask for help, when you're not able to admit your fears, all of these things, right, that are keeping you from being your best. Like I said, 2022 has started. We don't want to be where we are in the same thing next year, just rebooting the same resolutions. We want to look back at this year and go, this is where I stepped into. Now here's where I'm going. This is what I learned. And this is the shortcoming now that I'm going to look to leave in 2023. So then you get to the next level of the game. Life is a video game that never ends. The goal is to keep moving to the next level. And my personal goal every year is to advance to a new level in some way, some shape or form in my life. And let me tell you, a young man's game, a young woman's game is that game of physicality. It'll work when you're young, but when you get older and you wind up, developing or having more responsibilities, your physicality goes down and your wisdom goes up, hopefully, due to experiences. You have to rely on being more strategic, the wind, to beat the young man. And that's why the tortoise beats the hare at the end of the game. Because believe it or not, this is going to be a long life for most of you. Should you live every day like it's the last day of your life? Yeah. But deep down, you should know that there's a really good chance that you're going to wake up tomorrow as well. So don't spend all the money in your bank account too. So there's that dichotomy of wisdom that comes with becoming older, more mature, more flowing, more using the wind and not the row. It's what I have for you this week, everyone. Please, if you have a moment, any man out there, we have a wonderful quiz on our website, alphahippie.com. It's the Why You're Stuck quiz. If you are already starting this year off with some goals, if you're not sure where you need to start, take a look at this quiz. Use it to make sure as a possible realignment or refinement towards your goals. Or if you haven't started any, this could be the jump off point to you really knowing what is your ultimate goals. And the goals should be centered around habits, not outcomes. So if you have an outcome, first look at the outcome, but then take a step back and set goals to what habits will create that outcome, not the goal being the outcomes. The goal should be creating the habits that will then help you be the person to do and achieve the outcome. Increase the probability that that outcome will be there, because we are not in control of our outcomes. We're in control of ourselves. That means we're in control of our actions. Our actions repeated become our habits. Our habits become an identity of who we are, and who we are is what we do, and what we do repetitively is what we create. Have a wonderful week, everyone. I'll see you next week. Alpha Hippie out.
Cast is brought to you by WINJECT Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.